Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Happy holidays to all of you. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Publicity Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have reached double digits at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, our 10th trolley stop. That is episode number 10 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager here at Empowered Publicity, joined as always each and every month. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. And David, we are joined together once again for the holiday season. It's hard to believe that we're celebrating double digits.
We are.
I'm kind of curious. You actually remember when your little ones went from 9 to 10 years old? It's like that big growth spurt that's happening.
I remember quite well. We have 3 children, and we had three digit jumps there. It's interesting how things in that 1 year changes, especially in books too. Mm-hmm. It's hard to explain right now, but there's a big jump between 9 and 10 and 11 in books. It's people who might be watching this will find out when they have children who jump from sort of the preschool books to the ones that have a longer story. It's very interesting.
Correct.
And of course they can read on their own then too when they're 9 and 10. They can read. I sort of miss those days when we didn't read. They were reading on their own more or less. Mm-hmm. But we always managed to find a time to read it. That's what's important. It's not so much the story. I keep saying this every bookcast. It's not so much the story, of course it is too, but you could be reading the telephone book to them.
Yes.
It's the connection that the parent or the caregiver makes with the children, and the positive outcome is love of books. I think if they love that moment.
And we have And we have 2 brand new books we're going to be delivering, just as we do every month here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. David and I, we deliver heartfelt reviews, heartfelt shares of the newest heartfelt children's books from the shining stars in the kid-lit community here at Empowered Publicity. And we've been very blessed to be able to share the work of someone who is making such a positive impact on children, parents, and families all across the country and all around the world. Anna Svetchnikov, who is a licensed family therapist and an award-winning children's author of dozens of books for little ones and for parents. We are in the process here on this month's Bookcast, the month of December 2020, as we celebrate the holiday season here at Empowered Publicity. 2 of her most beautiful brand new children's books. We're going to be diving into the pages on this month's Bookcast of Happy Dreams and Too Sweet. And of course, before we begin the Bookcast, we want to express our gratitude and our appreciation to an organization that's doing such much needed work. They're doing great work for children, parents, and families out in your hometown, David, of course, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That is where you still reside and hang your hat. That's where, of course, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was filmed for many years at WQED. But we have been proud to support in 2021 the wonderful team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. They are the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States. And did you know that last year alone, that Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh provided over 80,000 children's books to over 23,000 children in need. So they provide children's books, developmental tools, resources for those children that come from low-income families in the Pittsburgh area and in the areas of our neighborhoods all across the country. We have been blessed to raise nearly $1,000 for the team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh through the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So we pledge our support to them. We encourage all of you this holiday season and into the new year, if you feel guided to do so, to make a donation. As we like to say here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, no donation is too large, no donation is too small. If you feel guided to do so, RIF Pittsburgh bookcast.org/donate. We've included the link below in the description below. And David, I think that this is the time of the year, especially, there are many people that are struggling, many people that, many children, they don't have access to children's books, whether it be because, their families might not necessarily have the money for them, or maybe, the schools that they're in aren't necessarily the best funded. They've got older resources, that sort of thing. So the importance of being able to give back to our little ones, especially through the love and joy of reading, even a small donation to Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh can go a very long way this holiday season and into the new year as well.
That's right. And one little tip is that if you're looking for children's books, the other day I went into a thrift store and they had a whole shelf of children's books ranging from preschool books on up through elementary and teenage books. So, and the price is right. You can get a good book at a bargain price. So check out those thrift stores for books for children.
Exactly. And one of the things that we've talked about here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast all year long, David, is the importance of also supporting your local libraries and your favorite children's bookstores. So if you're looking for that crisp, brand new book and you want to be able to give a gift to yourself, if you're an adult, to the inner child within you, or your son, your daughter, your grandchild, your niece or nephew, you can support your local children's bookstore, but also your local library. You want to talk about a valuable resource, a pillar for our community. There's thousands of children's books in libraries across the country, and you'd be surprised, you can get some good finds there at your favorite children's bookstore in the process. Now, before we dive into the pages as well, too, one last thing is that if, of course, you are enjoying this bookcast already thus far, if you say, John and David, I'm already in the holiday season, I'm ready to enjoy two great new children's books that are very colorful, very vibrant, and they have very supportive messages for little ones. One of the many ways that you can support us here at Empowered Publicity and the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast is to subscribe to Empowered Publicity's official YouTube channel and share this very special trolley stop that is episode number 10. We've reached double digits here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. You can share this bookcast via your favorite social media platforms of your choosing, and also just to keep passing along the message of children's books. It's another way that you can just support the world of children's literature to those that you love, you care about, and you serve as well too. So David, the trolley's gone already from San Diego to Pittsburgh, and we're going to go to Port St. Lucie, Florida in the Miami area. So we're definitely racking up a lot of mileage on this month's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. The first book from Anna Svetchnikov that we're going to be talking about is Happy Dreams. Now, we're sharing the cover art of the book on screen. I think it's absolutely beautiful because there's something about unicorns, David. They're a mythical creature. I think, sometimes when you think of unicorns, you might think of like My Little Pony. It kind of has a little unicorn vibe. If you're a child of the 80s, you know what My Little Pony is. I think they're still around, if I'm not mistaken, as well, too. I absolutely love this book because it has such a light, heartfelt, vibrant message. You're talking about all the good things in life. You're talking about unicorns. You're talking about fairies and elves and leprechauns. It's just got this magical feel to it. But of course, just like any story, and when you're taking the time to enjoy a children's book, you might have an interesting character. An antagonist, I think, is the word that I'm trying to get at. And and of course, I'm going to let you help me to dive into the pages of Happy Dreams, but there's a grumpy troll of all things. So when you're thinking of leprechauns and fairies and unicorns, you might think everything is all good in the world, happy dreams, right? And then you get this grumpy troll. I would love for you to be able to, it's again, a fairly short book. It's a fairly easy read, but it's a really beautiful story that just blends together from beginning to end.
That's right. Happy Dreams. Well, it's a story, and I think you might agree about the power of friendship.
Yes.
And how lonely it can be without friends, and that's the troll for you. He was lonely, and I think it's basically for preschoolers, wouldn't you say? The Happy Dreams, and maybe some early elementary, but I think preschool, and it's to my recollection, it's the first book we've reviewed that featured a unicorn
I believe so. I know that, last month we just reviewed I Matter, which is the first science book.
Right.
And so we're trending into new terrain here on the Neighborly Reviews. Okay, so the first book that has a unicorn being featured as well.
And as you said, it's very colorful. And the illustrations, by the way, are by Denis Morozov.
Mm-hmm.
Morozov, did I pronounce that correctly?
Morozov, correct.
And if I didn't, Dennis, excuse me. But anyhow, it takes place, Happy Dreams takes place in faraway land where dreams are created. And this is where the unicorn lives. She lives with other magical creatures, as you said, like the elves, leprechauns, fairies. And together they fill children's dreams with happy thoughts and adventures. Now, I'm reading off my notes. So you'll have to excuse me if I glance away every once in a while, but I can't remember all the plots all the time.
That's okay. You're good. You're good, David.
Okay. One night, all this was upset by a grumpy troll who you've mentioned already, who got tired of seeing and hearing children being happy all the time. So he put a curse on Dreamland, and the children's dreams turned to nightmares. Well, okay, this worried the unicorn, and she didn't want the children to have bad dreams because of the curse, and she set out to break the troll's curse. But she needed help from her friends, and that's where the friendship started. And they made a plan to find the troll, and he lived in a castle. And the unicorn's friends were, by the way, a bunny, a leprechaun, a phoenix. That's the first time the phoenix is mentioned in a children's book we reviewed, an elf, yes, a minotaur, and a fairy. Well, the troll saw all of them approaching in his crystal ball, and he decided to use his powers to stop them. And he started to spill candy all over the ground. And of course, one of the unicorn's friends, the baby bunny, was intrigued with the candy and stopped to eat it. Oh, then the troll made golden coins drop from the sky, and that made the leprechaun, another friend of the unicorns, stay behind and try to catch the coins. Well, friends were dropping off on the way to the troll's castle. His plan was working. And next, the troll cast a spell so that the phoenix bird stopped to show off his fancy feathers to all the other birds. Well, the phoenix bird is known as being a very fancy bird, and the phoenix was too distracted to continue on the journey, but it was getting dark. The troll cast a spell to hide the moon. He's thinking of everything, the troll, and that's scary. He's taking he's making sure they're not going to find the castle, but something tells me something's going to get through. Well, anyhow, the being dark scared the elf, and he didn't go on the journey, so the friends are dropping off. Then the troll cast a spell of anger, and the minotaur became angry and yelled at his friends, "I'm too angry to continue on the journey." And the only two that were left to find the troll were the unicorn and the fairy. Mm-hmm. But then, this is interesting, the troll cast a spell of envy. And the fairy became jealous of the unicorn because the unicorn's wings were bigger and the fairy had smaller wings. And it's interesting, at this point, I think you could stop and talk about that with the child you're reading the book to, about envy and about jealousy. Every one of these you could stop and talk about the subject. So the fairy became too jealous to continue to the troll's castle. So this left the unicorn by herself to continue on to the troll's castle, and soon found herself standing in front of the troll. "Troll, what have you done to the children? That's wrong. Everyone deserves to be treated with love and kindness." And there you go. There's a a statement right there. Everyone deserves to be treated with love and kindness.
Very powerful statement. It really is.
It is. And I think that's really the message of the book. But the troll said it isn't fair. The children were always smiling and happy, just like you and your friends were. So I stopped them and I stopped you. The unicorn could see that the troll was sad and unhappy. She thought if he had some friends, he would feel happier. So she invited the troll to play with her and her friends. Now, this is interesting. It's sort of turning the tables and inviting them to become friends. You know, it's a good lesson, I think. And of course, the troll was so surprised that the unicorn wanted to be his friend after all the curses he had cast on her friends. Well, he was grateful to be forgiven. And there's another lesson, forgiveness. And he reversed all of his spells, and each of his unicorn friends returned back to normal. And they all became friends. And from that day on, children everywhere only had happy dreams. And that's, as you said, it's a short but a very simple and I think powerful story.
I agree. There's a couple things to extract from what you shared. Thank you for the beautiful share, David. Is the fact that, you know, all of Anna's children's books or award-winning children's books for kids, they can be, you know, anywhere ranging from a shorter story such as Happy Dreams to a little bit longer in the process, but there's so much good that is shared in a relatively short book. You know, normally the traditional children's picture book, you get around 32 pages or so, and there's so many different messages. You know, you had mentioned about everyone deserves to be treated with love and kindness. Yes. We talked about the importance of friends, how friends are needed. And even, you know, the troll, he was very, you know, angry and sad and upset. He's going through these myriad emotions, and Unicorn, you know, extended the olive branch of friendship, and it really changed. You know what kind of comes to mind? You know, this holiday season. If you remember, the abominable snowman in the legendary Christmas classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Right. And the abominable snowman at the very end, if you remember this, not to give it away, but he hangs the star on the top of the Christmas tree. So he was reformed into a. I still remember Yukon Cornelius where he called him Bumble instead of calling him the abominable snowman, he called him Bumble. But it shows the fact that, you know, people can also transform, that people can change. If someone is, you know, feeling jaded and bitter and upset and angry all their life, they can have one day where things just decide to turn around in the process.
Yes, and as you read this book to a child, I think on each one of those, when a curse is given by the troll, you could stop and talk about envy and jealousy and anger and so forth. All of that gets into it. So, and you don't need much more than what Anna put in this book. It's perfect the way it is, I think. It's a good little story, and it can be read many times, I think, and find something new each time. Agreed. And as the child gets older, I think they understand a little more too. But yeah, it's a wonderful story. And again, the illustrator you have the name in front of you. I'm checking.
I absolutely do. Dennis Rozgov, I believe.
Yes, Morozov. Yes, Morozov, and yes. It's very colorful, and it's our first unicorn book.
Yes, I you know, one of the other messages that I wanted to be able to share, you know, Dennis did an amazing job with the illustrations. Before the other message that I want to share is that, you know, one of my favorite illustrations of the book, it's more towards the very beginning, but you had mentioned the passage. She knew she could not do it alone. She needed help from her friends. So you have the unicorn, you have the leprechaun, you have the bunny, you have the fairy, you have the elf, you have the minotaur, and then you have the phoenix bird. And they're all just gathering together. Even if you take a look at like the eyes the eyes in they have these childlike eyes, these characters. So even just the way in which, you know, each the colors as well. We talked about that as well in the Empowered Publicity Green Rooms, is that Anna and the illustrators for her books, they always provide such blends of colors which, you know, really appeal and soothe to the senses and to the mind and to the heart. And I think one of the other things that I also wanted to mention before we hop into Too Sweet is that the message when you see Unicorn, you know, having to go face to face with the troll, it's a matter of learning to overcome your fears, to face your fears head on. So just within this one book, there's 4 or 5 redeeming messages for children. And as you said, you know, the book can be, you know, shared with and read with preschoolers, kindergartners, even first graders. And you never know, one of the great things about children's books, especially Anna's, you never know what a children is going through in their life in that moment. And if you provide a book like Happy Dreams that has 4 or 5 different messages, then each child can take so many different things from the book, from the messages, and it can help them in their own journey, help them in their own healing, their own development.
Yeah, yes, and as you were saying that, I was just thinking it can help an adult too, as they're reading the story it can bring back some memories and some thoughts, and it really is helpful to everybody, I think, and different levels.
Yes.
But it certainly, you know, I like the troll coming around because it did show that the importance of friends. I think the overall is how valuable our friends are and how they can help in many ways. And it was the curse of the troll that the friends started to drop off. They were being cursed. They weren't dropping off because they didn't want to help anymore.
No, and I think when you mention that, it's also important to remind our little ones of the importance of a support system, and to be able to introduce that very early on, because there's a lot of, you know, us as adults, David, we think that we're Superman, we're Wonder Woman, we can do it alone, and then we're faced with a challenge, whether it be the loss of a loved one, an illness, sickness, or disease. Maybe you lose your job, you're going through a string of bad luck. It's important to have people in your life, friends, family, neighbors, you know, your local church or support group. There are people that are out there, and especially during the holiday season, this is the time that can bring up a lot of anxiety or fear or grief or guilt or trauma. And it's important to just know that you're not alone. And so, you know, Anna, you know, really, I love the work that she does. Before we talk about Too Sweet momentarily, we head into our final book of the year and of this particular Bookcast, episode number 10 is that Anna's work as a licensed family therapist is extraordinarily important, because when you have someone like Anna who is doing the work that she's doing for children who are going through emotional challenges, or maybe developmental disabilities, or maybe they're, you know, they were born into maybe not necessarily the best situation, it's important that we have people. You know, Fred, Mr. Rogers, talked about, you know, neighbors that children can trust. Right. And I think it's important to be able to have people in the neighborhoods and in communities across the country like Anna that are doing the work that she's doing for children in the form of being a licensed family therapist.
That's right. And the books are, the unicorn in a way is a person that children can trust.
Yes.
And in turn now, the reformed troll can be trusted now with a little more help, but I can see your point. That's a very good point. And books, more than television, more than all the other media, I think books are so important and make the point so vividly, because there's somebody there with the child reading the book. And I think that I keep stressing that, and that's so important. And you can give your own take on it. You can talk about what might be upsetting to the child or confusing. At any rate, thank you, Anna, for that. Happy dreams. And Now we're going to do Too Sweet. Is that correct?
Yes. And by the way, one last thing before we put the finishing touches on Happy Dreams.
Yes.
It's just a wonderful visual. I love at the end of the book how she's reminding children that now you can have your happy dreams.
That's right.
It's important. And I think, dreams come in two forms. There's the dreams that we sleep, or that we experience when we sleep. And then there's the dreams like, I've shared with you how one of my long-term visions is opening up a children's hospice for terminally ill children here in San Diego. Us as adults, we've got some people call it the 5-year plan or the 3-year plan or the 10-year plan. It's important to have those dreams out there and to never give up on those dreams. So again, so many messages found within the form of, within the pages of Happy Dreams in a Far Away Land. So yes, we're diving into the pages now of Too Sweet. And it is such if you're a little one and you love candy, I know us as adults, we have to do our part to stay away from the sugar, especially during the holiday season.
Oh yes.
But the cover of the book, it's so magical. You see a little fairy wand, a little magic wand with a star on it. You see Too Sweet up on top. It looks like the Too Sweet. It kind of looks like a licorice almost. And then the first O in two is in the form of a donut. And we are introduced to two characters. We are introduced to Jack and to Charlotte.
That's right.
They have these wonderful adventures. And needless to say, they love candy in the process. But Charlotte and Jack in the sweet land. It really is such a sweet story, full pun intended, on many different levels. If your kids love candy, this is going to be another book to kind of get them in the mood to, enjoy another piece of candy, but always in moderation. If there's one thing that we're encouraging at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, sugar is okay every now and again, but you gotta, keep things in their proper balance and moderation. So,
and I think that's the lesson to the book too. And
yes. We're kind of getting one step ahead of the game, but yes, feel free to help us to dive in.
Okay, well, I made some notes again, and the first sentence in the book is, have you ever seen the Tooth Fairy? And that's what Jack says. Have you ever seen the Tooth Fairy? Well, Jack, the Tooth Master, he has seen the Tooth Fairy, and while he and his sister Charlotte were brushing their teeth, Charlotte lost one of her teeth, and she called her mom, and she ran upstairs, and Charlotte put the tooth under her pillow because she was anxious to meet the Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy, yes.
Well, Mom tucked her into bed and then went downstairs, but Jack snuck into Charlotte's room and told her that the Tooth Fairy won't give her much money for that tooth. I think that's a little comedy there, because it's not clean. You don't brush long enough, and I think there's a little lesson there. You should brush 100 strokes or 100 brushes, something like that. And I don't think Charlotte always did that. Well, and Jack always wondered, I'm as a kid too, I wondered the same thing. How does the Tooth Fairy get around? How does she do her job? How does she collect all those thousands of teeth from children everywhere? I wondered that. Well, Jack knew. He knew that she had helpers. The Tooth Fairy had helpers, and one of them snuck into Charlotte's room. It was a mouse, but it scared Charlotte, and she screamed, she shouted, and he ran away. But before he ran away, he forgot the tooth, and he left no coins. And Charlotte wanted to use the coins to buy more sweets. She had a plan. And Charlotte, she chased after the mouse, and in his haste to run away, the mouse dropped a bag of magic dust. Now here we go. This is like transferring to the land of Oz now. And he used the dust to get from one house to the other. That's how the mouse helped the Tooth Fairy buy the magic dust. Well, Jack came into Charlotte's room, and both of them breathed the magic dust, and that transported them to a magical land, and that's called Sweet Land. Well, you can imagine what's in Sweet Land, a lot of different sweets. What is this place, and how do we get home, said Charlotte. They were now in Sweet Land. Of course, Jack knew that a queen ruled the magic place. There was candy everywhere. In fact, the lollipops and trees were made of chocolate, and the cotton candy grass, which is sort of interesting, cotton candy grass, and a little house made out of sweets surrounded with gumdrop flowers. Well, that sort of sets the scene. They are now in Candyland, or not Candyland, Sweetland.
Sweetland, yes.
Land. We're calling it Sweetland. But Charlotte couldn't help herself. She couldn't stop. She was munching on some candy shingles of one of these little cottages. And suddenly a witch jumped out of the cottage and they ran away. And they were careful not to eat any more of the candy. You have got to be careful in this land. Don't eat the candy. Well, they traveled through the land and discovered a river made out of purple jelly. Now that's in itself very
a river of jelly.
A river of jelly, purple jelly.
Purple jelly, to be specific. Yes.
Yes. They traveled on through the land and they discovered the purple jelly river. Well, Charlotte couldn't resist again, and she jumped into the river to taste the jelly. And Jack had to rescue her, but you know how he did it? He got a branch from a chocolate tree, and she held on to it, and he pulled her out of the river. But after all of this happened, Jack was determined to find the Tooth Fairy before Charlotte got into any more trouble with all of the temptation she had with the candy all around her. But that didn't last too long. They reached the top of a mountain and they saw a snow-covered ground. And again, that in itself is very picturesque. You can imagine this top of the mountain, snow-covered ground, but it was vanilla.
Tasty.
And it was ice cream everywhere. All flavors, strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, and of course, Charlotte was in her glory. All that ice cream, she had, of course, to scoop some up and try it. But there were penguins nearby, and they were charging at them because they were unhappy that someone was eating their home where the penguins lived. They weren't going to have it. So they chased Jack and Charlotte, and they escaped again, just like they escaped from the witch when Charlotte tried to eat one of the chocolate shingles. But this time they found the Tooth Fairy's castle on top of a mountain. Oh, it's interesting because the illustrations of the castle have out front of it two tall toothbrushes, as if that were the entrance post to the castle. And if you notice on the illustration of the castle, there are teeth every so often dotting the castle's decoration. And of course, this is the Tooth Fairy's castle. But the gate was blocked by the toothbrush guards. I love
the toothbrush guards. They mean business. They really
do
mean business.
And Anna means business too, because the lesson is starting here. Well, Charlotte began to cry because she couldn't see the queen. How will they get home? Well, here's a message. The Tooth Fairy heard Charlotte crying, and the Tooth Fairy said that the guards wouldn't let you in because they don't trust you to make good choices. And I think the Tooth Fairy meant by that, you don't make good choices, too much candy, not enough teeth brushing. The Tooth Fairy said, remember these two simple things. And here's another lesson. First, sweets are not always the right thing to eat. I guess, as you said earlier, in moderation, could be okay. But what you eat stays on your teeth and can damage your teeth if you don't keep them clean. So I guess what the message is here is sweets are not always the right thing, no. But if you do eat sweets, and when you eat, you need to brush your teeth. That is the important message here, and I agree wholeheartedly. I remember growing up, brushing your teeth was one of the most important things you could do during the day. Well, Charlotte promised, after hearing all this from the tooth fairy, to make better choices, and one of the guards, being a toothbrush, helped her clean her teeth. And when Charlotte's teeth were all clean and sparkling, the queen took the tooth that was in Charlotte's hand. This is her tooth that she brought all the way from home, and put a large gold coin in Charlotte's hand. And a new toothbrush. Now let's see. Then they found themselves back home, but only when Charlotte opened her hand to see the gold coin. So the trip with Jack to Sweetland was a lesson for Charlotte. And the next day, Charlotte's mom was so surprised that when she saw Charlotte standing at the bathroom sink along with Jack, brushing her teeth, yes, every tooth, and counting to 100 without skipping a number. And I think that is an important lesson too. Charlotte is a I guess a tooth master like her brother is now,
yes,
brushing her teeth every day. And it's so important because, last week is ironic. Last week I went to the dentist, and they do a much more thorough check now than they've ever done before to your gums, because your teeth can tell a dentist a lot about what's happening through the rest of your body. There's the very important checkups they do now. They can tell a lot how maybe there's something else going on in your system. So I think this book, brush your teeth every day seems so sometimes trite, but it's not. It's a very important message to get across to kids, and I think Anna did a good job in putting this all together.
A lot of children's books, you can talk about some wonderful messages, but there are books that talk about brushing teeth and things along the lines of that, but there's not, they're not as prevalent, let's say, as like a children's book that talks about kindness or compassion kind of thing.
No.
And if you even go back to see how far Charlotte's journey comes from the very beginning of the story, when she's brushing her teeth, it's, as you shared, 1, 2, skip a few, 99, 100. As you said at the beginning. And now it's a matter of brushing each tooth, to give each tooth the care, the love, the attention that it deserves. And I really love the fact as well too that that there's this is just Anna does such a great job with this. In the world, there's a lot of like when you turn on the news or you turn on the television, there's a lot of, whether it be politics related, COVID related, fear-based related things, a lot of negativity. Our kids are bombarded with messages that are not the best. And when you have something such as talking about the importance of friendship in Happy Dreams, talking about, facing your fears, coming face to face with your fears, as we talked about in Happy Fears, the importance of brushing your teeth, the importance of making healthier decisions, not even just brushing your teeth, that's one of them. But I think especially now, we can do our part as parents and custodians and caregivers of little ones to remind our little ones to make healthier decisions, because good chance, great likelihood, David, is that when our little ones are making healthier decisions now, early on, they're going to be making healthier decisions as they grow older, in high school, college, they get out into, their professional career, vocation of choice. And again, I love the color. And I think that this is, all around the holidays. It's interesting. I spent some time couple of weeks on back and, getting up the Christmas tree here in the Empowered Publicity office and the Christmas lights. And there's something about light. Again, we've seen a lot of darkness over the past 2 years in the world with COVID and everything related to that, right? It's so good to celebrate the light. So even when you take a look at the unicorn in Happy Dreams, her mane of hair has all the colors of the rainbow. Mm-hmm. Something that I forgot to mention, when you think of, when you share Too Sweet, there's a wonderful, I haven't walked in there yet because I really don't eat candy, but in San Diego, one of the most beautiful areas in San Diego, there's one of the most beautiful streets, Girard Avenue. So the Girard Street of Girard Avenue, but they have a candy store, and it's just like, it's kind of like a mix of an old school candy store, but like the newer school vibe, and it has the different sorts of things, the lollipops and the jelly beans and things along the lines of that. So I think this is a perfect way to conclude, David. Like, it's just hard to believe that we started the Bookcast almost at the very beginning of the year, 10 months ago, and here we stand now into Christmas and New Year's, and sooner than we know it, 2022 will be here. And the trolley's got many more stops to make between now and Christmas and the New Year's. The trolley has been very supportive with us this year. Is there any final parting words that you would like to share for our listeners and viewers as everyone gets ready to, those who celebrate Christmas? Obviously, Hanukkah has since passed, and those who celebrate Kwanzaa as well too. But for those parents and for those educators out there, especially, and the kids that are really enjoying the holiday season, what would be some words that you'd like to share as we wind down this Bookcast, we wind down the year of 2021?
Well, let's see. Well, as you were talking there, I was just thinking about the book in general and how helpful it would be if pediatric dentists had it in their waiting room.
It's a great
idea. That would be a very good book to read as you're waiting to see the dentist. And another thing that I learned from working all those many years with Fred Rogers is that if you like yourself, you tend to like others, and you tend to want to take care of yourself. You want to brush your teeth. You want to be healthy if you like yourself. And that's, I think, the basis of everything, is just learning to love yourself, and you'll in turn love others.
That is
and
so important. I'm really glad you shared that, because it really, at the end of the day, love is something that begins within. If you don't know how to love yourself, if you can't love yourself, it becomes difficult and challenging for other people who are wanting to love you. It becomes that much more difficult to receive that. And so I really appreciate sharing that message, especially, David.
And I hope the troll, going back to the Dreams book,
Dreams, yes.
I hope the troll is on his way to loving himself. And maybe that's another lesson that Anna shared, that the troll is finding out to love himself through his friends.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to say. As you were talking, I was thinking about those two things.
Well, that is a perfect way to conclude the year for us here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And of course, again, we hear the trolley, and as we hear the trolley, we know that it's time to go. So we want to thank all of you for your continued support of Empowered Publicity and the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And before we share our final thank yous for the calendar year that has been 2021, if you are a children's author and would love for David and I to be able to share your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast in 2022, we've got some great things lined up for the first part of the brand new year, and you're wishing to join the Empowered Publicity family, You can head on over to the official website of Empowered Publicity at empoweredpublicity.com, or to connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen, Facebook and Instagram at Empowered Publicity, and Twitter at Empowered_PR. We also want to give one tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, Laura Kavanaugh, the host and executive producer of San Diego Living, the official home of Empowering Reads for Kids, which is the official television book review segment here at Empowered Publicity. If you're a children's author and would love for Laura and I to be able to review your brand new children's book, to place it in front of the children, parents, families, and educators in America's finest city here in San Diego, California, on the CW San Diego CBS 8, you know where to connect with us at empoweredpublicity.com or any of our social media platforms on screen. And we look forward to being of service to many more children's authors in 2022 throughout the year. If you feel that Empowered Publicity, that PR from the heart can be of service to you, you can schedule your courtesy discovery call at empoweredpublicity.com or visit us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Again, one final time, we do want to thank, because this has been a special bookcast that we have been working with Anna on. Her two brand new children's books are Happy Dreams and Too Sweet. They are now available. You can head on over to Anna's official website, which is positiveparentinginitiative.com. You can learn more about the great work that she is doing with her non-for-profit organization as well, too. You can also, if you're on Amazon, you can leave 5-star reviews for Happy Dreams and for Too Sweet, along with any of the dozens of other children's books, award-winning children's books, and books for parents that are available through Anna's website and through Amazon.com. But again, if Amazon is your preferred vehicle of choice, you can leave 5-star reviews, as that will let Anna know that she is doing the work that is needed. She's doing much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books in the process. If this bookcast has inspired you, the messages that we've shared within the pages of Happy Dreams and Too Sweet, whether it be the importance of friendship, whether it be facing your fears head on, whether it be the importance of brushing your teeth and all other healthy choices and patterns, if you feel that these books can be shared with someone in need, we encourage you to subscribe, if you haven't had the opportunities to do so, to our official YouTube channel here at Empowered Publicity, and share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 10 of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast in the process. And, you know, David, this has just been such a joy to be able to create and to work alongside you and to share these great messages, which, by the way, if you're not able to head on over to Amazon, remember to contact your local library or your favorite children's bookstore and to see if Anna's books are located there. If not, give a little bit of a suggestion to the bookseller, to the owner of the bookstore, to stock their copies of Happy Dreams and Too Sweet. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to be sharing with children, parents, families, and educators in the brand new year, David. Of course, as a little tip of the cap as well, too, you remember him, David, you spent many years of your life with him. You know, Fred Rogers, he reminded all of us for many years that we're loved and we're special just the way that we are. I still have a poster in my office just across the yonder way, and it says, "There's no person in the whole world like you. I like you just the way that you are." Fred somehow found the fountain of youth. He must have known Ponce de Leon, because he weighed 143 pounds for his entire natural adult life.
That's right.
That was also his way of conveying, "I love you." 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. As you've been kind of join us, not only this month on the bookcast, but over the past 9 months previous, for all these 10 months, we like to say 2, 4, 3 to all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you, and that means that we love you. We remind you, David and I, that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that you are perfect, just the way that you are. Again, we want to thank all of you for your continued support of Empowered Publicity, for the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, for children's authors and illustrators such as Anna Svetchnikov, again, who are providing such a valuable service, in addition to much needed work, a valuable service for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. As we mentioned, your support for local libraries and children's bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. So have a Merry Christmas. Have a blessed and happy New Year, but we'll see all of you in 2022. Now, I think that the trolley is playing Auld Lang Syne. I didn't know this, but the trolley can actually play music, David. So we're hearing a little Auld Lang Syne. So for David Newell, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you for spending some time with us here in our neighborhood at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast at Empowered Publicity. Thank you for enjoying and spending time with us on episode number 10 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and have a blessed, magical, and safe New Year.